Elon Musk, whose association with Donald Trump, brief association with Donald Trump, has arguably cost his motoring business dear, with a huge sort of backlash towards Tesla cars. Well, the bosses at Tesla, the shareholders, don't seem to be distressed at all, as they're offering Elon Musk $1 trillion compensation package as chief exec if he can meet targets which, frankly, do look impossible to my eyes. So you're talking about boosting Tesla's valuation to something like £8.6 trillion. He would have to expand the number of cars from 2 million vehicles to 20 million vehicles. But if he does, he'd be the first guy on earth to draw a salary of £1 trillion. I don't even know how many noughts are in $1 trillion. I'm joined by Luke Hildyard, director of the High Pay Centre. Morning, Luke. Nice to see you.
Good morning.
It's insane, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, irrespective of any of the business stuff, I think it's worth reiterating that Musk is just a really bad human being. He's turned X, formerly Twitter, into an absolute sewer of racism and anti-Semitism. He constantly amplifies accounts that aren't just, legitimately concerned about immigration, but believe in real, like, Nazi-style stuff about racial hierarchies and want to deport non-white people from Britain and America. The AI tool, the Grok tool on his site, drew on so many racist sources that it wound up praising Hitler when prompted. He's got a record as a very horrible employer. Tesla has been guilty of illegally sabotaging trade union efforts to help workers bargain for fairer pay and prevent mistreatment. SpaceX, his space company, has a really bad record for serious injuries to employees, including amputations, crushed limbs. They've even had a death in the workplace. So I think to be rewarding someone like that with so much wealth and power actually speaks to the sick culture of Tesla, and to a lesser extent big business and corporate America, and maybe even multinational companies more widely. Because if you look at this objectively, he's someone who should be a complete pariah and totally ostracized from important roles like this.
It's never going to happen under somebody like Donald Trump, but in a different space and a different time, would you look to government to start to legislate over pay if it's getting that up? They're very quick to legislate or try and legislate over benefits and disable benefits. Is there a role for government here, whether in the US or anywhere else, to sort of say, no, it's too much?
I definitely think there is. If you look at what's raised living standards throughout history, it's a mixture of growing aggregate wealth and making sure that the wealth we have is distributed evenly and that it's not all accumulating to people at the top. You go back to the Industrial Revolution, which is kind of analogous to the age we're in now with the tech changes. Society got richer because there was a lot of innovation going on, but it wouldn't have benefited people if we hadn't legalized trade unions, empowering workers to negotiate a fairer share of the wealth created by their labor, rather than it going to a tiny number of wealthy Victorian industrialists. Similarly, after the Second World War, we had the creation of the NHS, the welfare state, which lifted living standards massively in Britain, funded through progressive taxation. The minimum wage essentially forces wealthy business owners to spend a bit more of the money accumulating to their businesses on low-earning workers. So it's totally normal to say we need to sort of share things a bit more evenly. And I think it's actually more urgent than ever that we do that now. There was a great article in the Financial Times this week, an interview with Geoffrey Hinton, Professor Geoffrey Hinton, who's known as the godfather of AI, a Nobel Prize winner for physics. And he was saying that the way business governance is set up at the moment, the way AI and technological advances and big companies like Tesla are being managed, technology is going to put ordinary workers out of a job, and the technology is just all owned by a tiny number of rich people who are going to reap all the benefits. Unless we do something about it, it's going to make rich people loads richer and poor people loads poorer.
I read the interview and I was thinking about asking you this question. I think I'm going slightly off in a tangent. It's a huge question, Luke, but I find it absolutely fascinating that the AI revolution, I think, is going to lead to mass redundancies. We're in a mindset, a political mindset, where all benefits are sort of bad and injurious, and we must look after the super rich. How do we fund society when most taxpayers aren't working because they've been laid off by AI? I mean, are we going to be funded entirely by tech bros and whatever we can squeeze out of them? How is life going to be funded?
I think we're going to have to look at the ownership of companies and these technologies. I mean, a lot of the initial research that goes into the development of these technologies comes from government funding, which we all pay as taxpayers. So I think there's a right to say that, should Elon Musk be capitalizing on, or people like him capitalizing on all the benefits of these technologies when we all contribute to their development? I mean, looking at Tesla, they have 100,000 employees. They've benefited hugely from government subsidies and tax breaks, loans. Pretty much every government in the world, plus the media and environmental charities and many other organizations, have been promoting electric cars, which certainly makes life easier if you're an electric car business. So even if, in this example, Elon Musk does hit these targets and Tesla become so prosperous and profitable, I think it's a big leap to say, well, Elon Musk alone deserves all the reward for that, because there's far, far more people who've contributed to who will have contributed to that success, and he's just the one person taking credit. So I think we've got to look at measures that would, from a practical point of view, mean that more of the wealth of the UK economy, the US economy, the global economy is shared more evenly, but also from a moral point of view, ensure that the people who contribute to the creation of that wealth are rewarded proportionately for their contribution, rather than it just going to a tiny number of super rich billionaires and CEOs who happen to be in the right place at the right time to capitalise from other people's endeavours.
Luke, lovely talking to you. I'm inclined to agree. I just can't foresee at the moment when this conversation is. I want to have the conversation now, and I just don't understand why our political leaders are still talking about things like benefit cuts and wealth taxes when we haven't even got onto the big one, which is how are we going to deal with AI and millions of job losses. But